Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for today's town hall, organized by Rutgers Global, the university's central international office. My name is Rick Lee, and I'm the Director of Global Programs and Partnerships. And on behalf of my colleagues at Rutgers Global, I would like to welcome you to today's town hall, focusing on academic issues for current international students. We recognize that many of you have questions about what the fall semester will look like, especially since we will continue to be meeting remotely to ensure the safety of the Rutgers community. To this end, we've invited representatives for various schools to answer questions pertaining to your academic concerns. Joining us today are Dean Susan Lawrence from the School of Arts and Sciences, Dean Pang Song from the School of Engineering, Dean Dietrich Chantz from the Rutgers Business School, and Dean Eileen Cowler from the School of Graduate Studies. Also joining us are Maya Sarno and Carissa McCarthy from the International Student Services Office. They will provide an overview of government policies, visas, and current travel regulations and restrictions. We appreciate that some of you have questions that go beyond academic issues. Our panelists will do their best to answer those questions. However, if we're not able to address your questions today, we will be sure to follow up and direct you to the appropriate offices to get answers to your questions. If there are any incoming first-year New Brunswick students attending today, I would encourage you to view the recording of a recent town hall organized by the Division of Enrollment Management. One of my colleagues will drop the link in the recording in the chats. We will also share the university's COVID-19 page, which includes a lot of very useful information that you should refer to on a regular basis because it keeps getting updated. So, a few housekeeping items. All attendees, please ensure that you're muted during the town hall. And to help with bandwidth issues, please also hide your videos. We will be recording this session, and we will post the recording on our Rutgers Global YouTube channel as soon as possible. The majority of your questions will hopefully be addressed by our panelists, so we encourage you to pay attention to the answers being provided by our speakers. If you have a question that hasn't been addressed, please feel free to share your question in the chat box. We will be collecting these questions to be addressed later on during our discussion. So without further delay, I'm going to invite our speakers to introduce themselves and provide some brief opening remarks. We will begin with Dean Susan Lawrence from the School of Arts and Sciences.
Hi, welcome. It's great to see all of you, or at least have you all here this morning. Our campus seems very empty without you, and we are eager for this situation to pass and to be able to welcome you all back to New Brunswick. The fall semester will look for you much like it will look for all of our students. Virtually all of our courses will be delivered remotely, online, in one of two formats usually, either with a set meeting time that's still listed in the online schedule of classes. That will be a particular time that you'll need to be logged in and meet with your instructors. Others will meet asynchronously. They're listed in the schedule of classes as hours by arrangement. This will be very helpful to students in multiple time zones, but these will still involve a lot of instructor-student engagement. And there will be opportunities to meet with your instructors remotely, live, either through WebEx or Zoom or whatnot. So we have made sure that there is a broad offering of these courses that meet hours by arrangement. That's how it's listed now in the schedule of classes, to make sure that we can accommodate the needs of all of our students with the range of challenges presented by time zones and internet connection and whatnot. It's important to remember, the single most important thing I think I want you to take away today is that classes begin September 1st. And even these hours by arrangement classes are not self-paced. Rather, we instructors are expecting you to log in to one of the learning management systems, Canvas or Sakai, on September 1st and begin the semester with all of our students that are at least studying remotely this semester. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean Lawrence. Dean Song?
Morning, everyone, or evening at where you are. My name is Peng Song. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education at School of Engineering. My office works with the department look after our undergraduates. Same as Dean Lawrence's office, representing School of Arts and Sciences. Now, School of Engineering, we have about 7% international undergraduate students. So it's about 300 and change. I want to say 312 by my count last semester. So all our new students and many of our continuing students are back to their home at this moment, and they will be joining us in the fall from where they are. So I'm pretty sure you have lots of questions and concerns about our fall remote. But I want to mention something. So even we have even the campus, even the university has decided, even before the university has decided that we're going to be remote in the fall. Our schools, all the academic schools, we were together and discussing how we can deliver the same level of education to our international students remotely, because at those times we know early on that some of you may not be able to come to school in the fall, even if we're opening in person. So we are actually, I want to think, more ready, if you wish, to look at the challenge, the unique challenges our international students are facing. So I'm very glad that we have this opportunity here today to hopefully address the concerns you have. One thing to be assured, I guess, is after the the quick sort of turnaround in the spring, we certainly have lots of I wouldn't say lots of time, but opportunities to reflect on the spring remote, the second half of spring being remote, and the whole summer being remote. So I want to sort of assure you at this moment that I think our faculty are ready to receive all of you in the fall, whether it's in the classroom setting or in the individual meeting discussions. So I look forward to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Song. Let's move on to Dean Chaunt from the Rutgers Business School. Dietrich, I think you have it on mute.
Sorry for that. Okay, so on behalf of the Rutgers Business School, I would like to welcome you to this morning's town hall. My name is Dietrich Chantz, and I'm Assistant Dean of International Programs. And so I will give you just a few pointers as what we have done in preparation for the fall semester. So first and foremost, I would like to assure you that RBS will be there for all of our students this fall, and that we will offer the full range of courses and services similar to that if the university campus were open. Our graduate and undergraduate courses will be offered in a variety of formats, as already discussed by Susan Lawrence. As guidance regarding delivery of courses changes, we will change, adapt in how it's required. But no matter whether you are an incoming first-year student or continuing student, you will be able to take the courses that you need to make progress toward completion of your chosen academic program. I think that's very important. Then we also very much aware of the issues that our international students have to cope with, such as taking courses across different time zones and issues with internet connectivity. And so we will address that accordingly. Please rest assured that our faculty will be making efforts to accommodate international students to the best of their ability. As Dean Peng Song just mentioned, for the School of Engineering at RBS2, we have put a lot of effort in training our faculty in becoming more proficient with online teaching. And so we have had weekly webinars for our faculty that focused on online course design, recording of lectures, teaching, and so forth. So in other words, our instructors are fully invested in delivering the best online teaching experience possible. And so please feel free to provide our instructors with whatever feedback you may have, either positive, either negative, or also words of encouragement. Most importantly, please reach out to our advising team whenever you have questions about courses and the curriculum. They will be available in multiple formats, such as by email, via live chat, or Zoom or WebEx walk-in sessions. So again, thank you for attending this morning's town hall. Make the best of this opportunity to get answers to all the questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Chance. And finally, we have Dean Eileen Cowler from the School of Graduate Studies.
All right, welcome everyone, and let me thank you for attending this event, and I also want to thank Global Services for having this event, and I'm eager to hear all of your questions. I'm also happy you've chosen Rutgers as a place for graduate education. Just some general comments. For just about everything that you're going to want to know, your graduate program is the first stop for information. So there is a graduate program director, there are graduate programs administrators, there will be orientations remotely conducted by your graduate program as well as the School of Graduate Studies. All of the events that occur, other than coursework that you would have expected to have on campus, are now going to be online, and you're going to have access to everything. And we want to make sure the communication channels are there. So one of the important things is you should know who your graduate director is so that you can make those communications as needed, and they'll be able to get back to you. They know who you are. I look forward to your questions as we proceed with this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Cowler. And now I'd like to invite Maya Sarno and Carissa McCarthy to share a few opening remarks.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Maya Sarno, and I am the Assistant Director of International Student Services at Rutgers Global ISSS. I would like to begin by first giving a recap and overview of the regulatory landscape and a brief timeline of the guidance that has been issued over the last few months. The following information applies specifically to students in F1 status. The first guidance from the Student Exchange Visitor Program, or SEVP, and ICE was released on March 9th. Under these guidelines, temporary accommodations were put into place to address many regulatory problems that students were facing. The March guidance included a temporary relaxation of the 5-month rule so that you could maintain your active SEVIS record even if you were outside the US for more than 5 months and enrolled full-time. Also, if you were enrolled at Rutgers as of March 9th, 2020, and were maintaining active SEVIS status either in the US or abroad, you could continue to stay in active SEVIS status and enroll in 100% online coursework or any combination of in-person or online study. 4 months later, on July 6th, SEVP and ICE released updated guidance that proposed new restrictions on international students. The implications of the July 6 guidance would have been extremely detrimental for our students and would have severely impacted our university community. Along with many other institutions across the US, Rutgers University advocated vehemently for our students, and the July 6 guidance was ultimately rescinded on July 14th and will no longer take effect. So now, we currently stand at the July 24 final guidance, which clarifies many points from the March guidance. Here are some of the main highlights from the latest guidance and their implications for F1 students. First of all, continuing students who were in active status on March 9th, 2020 may maintain legal status regardless of location and may enroll in 100% online coursework or any combination of online or in-person coursework if they are enrolled in a full course of study and making normal progress. So, if you are in active SEVIS status, whether in the US or outside, you can continue to maintain your status by following all F1 rules. Based on guidance issued by Dr. Dick Edwards, Senior VP of Academic Affairs, funded PhD students can also continue to be paid for their appointments, whether they are in the US or abroad, as long as they are in active legal status. New or initial F1 students outside the US who intend to pursue a 100% online course of study in fall 2020 are advised not to come to the US for fall 2020. These students, however, may begin their Rutgers programs in their home countries. We understand how this can be confusing. We're not saying that new students may not try to come. The government guidance, however, suggests not coming if you do not have any in-person academic requirement. However, if there is an academic reason why you need to be here, please talk to your program or school as well as the ISSS, and we will do our best to support you in your visa application or travel plans. But in most cases, students with initial records starting new programs at Rutgers without any in-person requirement are advised to enroll in the fall semester in your home country. The Office of Admissions or the ISSS can work with you to defer your SEVIS record to spring 2021. Unfortunately, students cannot be on university payroll until they have activated their SEVIS records in the US and are otherwise eligible for US employment. We only have guidance from the university addressing funding issues for supported PhD students, which says that new PhD students who are outside the US may be eligible for tuition remission upon approval of their graduate program, but not for a salary or stipend. Now, new or initial students who are inside the US should follow all reporting requirements and F1 regulations to activate and maintain your F1 status at Rutgers. Now, a word about visas. Visa issuance and renewal falls under the purview of the US Department of State, and it cannot be guaranteed by the university or by any other government agency. What this means is that while we will support students who have visa appointments in any way we can, the decision on whether or not a visa is granted rests with a consular or embassy officer. Regular visa processing was suspended worldwide since March, but there is now news of a phased reopening of visa services, and we are hearing of some students securing visa appointments and in some cases, successfully acquiring a visa. All of this information was highlighted for all continuing international students in an important notice email that was sent from the ISSS on July 30th. This notice included many other important details, as well as useful resources for our international students. In addition, the alerts section of the ISSS website includes FAQ documents that outline current guidance and explain how we are continuing to support you during these very difficult times. This was just a brief overview of the current regulatory landscape for F1 students. Later on in the town hall, I will be happy to answer some specific questions that have already been raised about F1 students and the fall semester. For now, though, I will turn to my colleague, Carissa McCarthy, who will now address J1 student issues.
Welcome. Thank you, Maya. As Maya introduced me, my name is Carissa McCarthy, and I'm a Senior International Student Advisor at the ISSS office. I work mostly with non-degree students on F1 and J1 visas. My focus will continue to share how these changes and this current times has impacted our smaller J1 student population. So given the Department of State oversees the J1 exchange visitor program, unlike the F1 visas, the J1 guidance at this time has left some room for interpretation. However, the goal of the Department of State and program sponsors like Rutgers is to continue to support our J1 exchange visitors so that they can maintain their J1 records until they've completed their program and are able to depart safely. The US government has allowed for some extensions based on extraordinary circumstances. So for example, some students are able to extend if they're unable to return home due to their closed borders. Also, DS 2019s must be mailed to J1 students and they need to enter with their original documents. Other benefits like academic training still remain intact and students can continue to apply for this, this benefit as part of the J1 status. Some regulations related to accepting new J1 students are not as clearly outlined as they are the F1 students, but the premise of the J1 exchange program is to help foster exchange of culture, ideas, and knowledge. And with that scope in mind, Rutgers is prepared to advise our J1 students accordingly as we navigate this next academic year. If we have any J1 students in the audience who have specific questions related to travel, entry, or extensions, please feel free to directly reach out to me and we can add my email in the chat below and I'd be happy to discuss any questions with you. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers for providing some opening remarks. So we're going to now turn to some key academic questions that the students are concerned with. So I'm going to begin by asking Dean Lawrence, in your opening remarks, you began to share a general overview of the university's academic plans for fall 2020, and I would like to invite you to elaborate a bit more. Can you share with us what academic services and resources will be available to students? And if there are any tentative plans for the spring semester that you're able to share, please do so as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rick. Let me say that the academic deans across the schools, my colleagues here, Peng Song and Tiju Changs, have all been working quite closely with the Vice Provost for undergraduate education and the Provost office generally to make sure that we have a great academic experience for all our students, including and especially our international students. I want to echo what my colleagues said about how our faculty have been working very hard on preparing for the fall semester. We still have our same world-class faculty designing our courses and teaching our courses this fall. So they are very sensitive to the needs of our international students. They've been working very hard on preparing for a fully remote semester, and we're confident that this is going to be a successful experience for students in the fall. We have made lots of efforts to make sure that the courses you need to move forward in your degree will be available to you regardless of what time zone you're in and the other challenges that we know we are all facing. Indeed, even here in New Jersey, we suffered a lot of power outages that threw us all for a loop last week as we had some heavy rains and windstorms. So we know there'll be some challenges, but we're committed to working on them. We have also, as you know, all the graduate programs exist within the various schools as well. And we've been working with our graduate faculty, many of whom also teach undergraduate students, to prepare for this remote semester. The changes in how graduate courses will meet are also listed in the online schedule of classes. All of you should check the online schedule of classes to see if there's a specific meeting time or if it's hours by arrangement. These updates to the schedule of classes did not change any individual student's schedule. This did not move your courses around or anything, but it does provide you with more information. If you find that you need to add or drop a course, switch a course, you can do that. If you're a continuing student, you can do that beginning right now. Actually, you've been able to do it for several weeks. Add drop, you'll be able to add courses up through September 11th. You'll be able to drop courses up through September 14th. These are the dates that are published now for all 3 campuses, New Brunswick, Newark, and Camden. The exact dates for withdrawing from a course or withdrawing from the semester completely are still being worked out. In New Brunswick, those dates will be November 30th. Keep in mind, though, that undergraduate students need to maintain full-time enrollment, which means enrollment in at least 12 credits, okay? All of our schools' academic advising offices are set up to serve you through email, live chat, and a variety of other mechanisms. They'll set up a WebEx or Zoom meeting with you if you want. They will be flexible in times they can meet with you. So we're working very hard on this. For incoming first-year students, your schedules will be released in New Brunswick. If you're in New Brunswick, your schedules will be released August 20th, and starting August 25th, you'll be able to add and drop courses. And in those 5 days in between, our advising staff will be providing instructions and tutorials on how to use our computer systems, our web reg, to add and drop courses. One of the questions that has come up quite frequently is whether or not tuition will be reduced in this online environment, this remote environment. Indeed, the former President Barchi announced last spring that we would freeze tuition for the year, that there would be no tuition increase for academic year 2021. Typically, there's a 2 to 3% tuition increase each year. There is no increase this year. We're not reducing tuition because we are still providing you with the same faculty, the same world-class faculty that are working quite hard to provide an effective and efficient and engaging experience with you for the fall. We are not blowing up class sizes. You won't be in a much larger class. These are not online classes that have been pre-produced somewhere. These are our faculty designing these courses for you. The current president, President Jonathan Holloway, announced earlier in July that there'd be a 15% reduction in the campus fee for undergraduate students. We're still seeking clarification on whether that applies to graduate students as well. The campus fee seems a bizarre thing to charge while we're all in a remote environment, but indeed many of the costs of having our campus still exist. And the campus fee funds things like libraries, which will be fully available to you remotely. It funds things like the learning centers, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. The mental health services, which will be available remotely. We are committed to and working very hard to provide all the services that you would get on campus remotely as well. So what kind of academic services and resources will be available to you? As I mentioned, each school's advising offices are working very hard to be accessible to you. You should visit those advising pages and try to meet with an advisor if you're having any challenges, questions, or need any help. As Dean Noller said, if you're a graduate student, the graduate program director in your specific department or graduate program would be your first point of contact. The learning centers are a very important resource. They provide a slew, a whole menu of academic support services, from tutoring to peer mentoring and many other academic supports. Many of our best students make the most use of our learning centers, but we encourage all of our students to make use of those resources. They are fully available remotely. They will also work with various time zones. The learning centers have a particularly useful page they've developed that I think we'll put in the live chat here on how to succeed in a remote course and in a remote learning environment. So I would really urge you all to review that material, whether you're a graduate or undergraduate, to really maximize your success in this strange new all remote world we're living in. One of the things I think we've learned over the last 6 months is that we are going to be doing a lot of work remotely, off and on, for many years, that we have discovered some of the advantages of remote, but being able to learn, create, think critically, and interact effectively in a remote environment is a key career skill for the coming decades. Some of the plans for spring, things are uncertain. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. We are planning for a robust mix of remote, again, synchronous and asynchronous courses. We will be extremely sensitive to the travel challenges that international students may face. Those of you who have been on our campus know that we are a busy, bustling campus that makes full use of our classrooms from early in the morning till late at night. So indeed, there is no way that we could maintain social distancing and offer all of our courses in person. We will be offering a lot of courses remotely in the spring as well, to accommodate the needs of our students around the world and to ensure, to maximize the health and safety of our entire Rutgers community and indeed our surrounding communities. So there will be some mix going on. There will be pre-registration for spring, will most likely occur a little bit later in the semester than it usually has, but we are committed to ensuring that you can maintain progress towards your degree. And everything that is offered on campus, as we can gradually reopen, will also be available remotely to accommodate the students who need remote instruction. So maybe my friend Dean Song can add to this a little bit.
Thank you, Dean Lauren. So yes, thank you for providing a really wonderful overview and reassuring our students about what's going on campus. So to Dean Song, can you just elaborate a bit more about how remote learning will affect the quality of the education that our students will be receiving from faculty? And also, what are the basic computer and technology needs that students will need to have access to in order to successfully complete their coursework?
You're still mute.
I noticed that. So let me perhaps answer the second question first. New Brunswick and the university-wide, we have an IT office, and we worked with them to develop a tech guide, a technology guide for all students. I think it's been posted in the chat box. Feel free to click on it, where I'm sort of trying to focus on the first question because it needs a little bit more elaboration. So the first question is how will remote learning affect the quality of education? Maybe we should rephrase the question as how remote learning improve or can improve the quality of education. I see this because even before the pandemic, the whole higher education community have been discussing the development of pedagogy to incorporate the the social media, the online aspects and the pace and the asynchronous nature of the learning from students, because their technical background or their preparedness are have a wide spectrum. So all of these have been discussed, and many technical papers have been published. Certainly engineering, so we have a community called the American Association of Engineering Education, and these have been discussed also amongst our peers, the Big Ten academic alliances. We meet every year to talk about issues, and a major part before the pandemic have been devoted to this, to modernize the engineering education. And I'm pretty sure my colleagues from other schools have similar activities or programs going on. To be honest, the spring in March, we did really a heartbreak on the in-person, and then we switched to remote learning in a matter of a week. That goes with the majority of the university in this country. At that moment, I actually genuinely worried that this sudden switch will turn out to be a horrible experience for the faculty, for the instructors, and for our students. And to the extent that many of them will never want to do it again, right? That would destroy the whole sort of movement even before the pandemic. But at the end of, even during the spring as it progresses, faculty are reporting that there are actually more classroom interactions and engagements, because this generation of students, they are very comfortable to be online, to be interactive, to be proactive in the online setting, more so than in person, because I guess they grew up in the internet age compared with some of our faculty, myself included. So this is very encouraging, and we have done lots of survey amongst the students and faculty alike, and the result have been very, very encouraging instead of my original worry. As Dean Lawrence mentioned, the students have lots of help and support from our learning centers, from campus resources. I want to mention that the academic schools and the university have been especially proactive about helping our faculty to make the right choices for their own teaching philosophy, to improve, to modernize their pedagogy, to somehow thinking more so from their spring experience to integrate the remote learning technology to deliver the required learning outcomes. So we have been working very hard along with, so we have a center for teaching advancement at Rutgers, and we have been working with them to offer faculty seminars. This is, so we had a little bit of time over the summer to really to sort of answer their specific concerns about how they can deliver the learning outcome, which is required, especially for the professional, for the engineering subject. And many of our professional schools has been going through this in terms of the learning outcomes are the main or the most important accreditation criteria, if you wish. So the faculty's mind, I think all of our faculty on campus have been focusing on this particular aspect, is to look at the assessment, to look at how they can achieve or have the student achieve the same learning outcomes using this new model of delivery. I feel the university has been very much caring for the faculty to help them prepare. And we certainly hope this care will transfer onto our students. So this is a learning outcome aside to really sort of perhaps improve not just the technical aspect, but even from the interactions, because they won't necessarily see the students in the offices and how to connect with the students in a remote setting, even those aspects, how to make the classroom more dynamic and engaging in this online setting. And in the conversations with our faculty and the department leadership, I do sense this strong ethic of care for students, for their learning and for their well-being. So I'd like to think not only that the remote learning is going to achieve the learning outcomes, but I like to think that they can even improve it. So the pandemic, if you wish, pushed us to sort of leap forward. But I believe that we were on the cusp of transforming the education even before this. So if you wish, this perhaps could be or could make us come out better from the other end. I sincerely hope so. And I'm very hopeful for that as well.
Great, thank you, Dean Song. So we're we have a couple more sets of questions for Dean Lawrence and Dean Song, and I'm gonna invite them to be brief so we can give additional time for Dean Chance and Dean Cowler to speak about graduate student issues. So to Dean Lawrence, and again, Dean Song, I do appreciate your reframing and the reminder that this is an opportunity for all of us, and that remote learning does present an opportunity for us to improve the quality of the education and delivery of the education that we're providing to our students. Dean Lawrence, can you say something really briefly about how students' course grades will be calculated for the fall semester, and will it be the same as the spring semester? And also, what advice would you give to students as they're shopping to finalize their courses for the fall semester?
As you may recall, for last spring, because we did the sudden pivot to remote instruction, we, like many leading universities, offered a pass no credit option to students. We extended that through the summer. We will not be offering pass no credit for the fall. We will not be offering that option. This is because I'm referring to undergraduate students. This is because multiple semesters of pass no credit really reflect quite poorly on students in their transcripts. It will not serve them well in the long run as they apply to graduate programs, as they apply for employment opportunities. It can also have other complications for domestic students with financial aid and whatnot. Rather than have a pass no credit option, we have extended, at least on the New Brunswick campus, the last day to withdraw with a W, and that is extended to November 30th for undergraduates. You would still need to maintain an enrollment of at least 12 credits. We have some ability to put you in other 1 or 1.5 credit mini courses to maintain your credit load if you need to withdraw later. But we know what we're getting into. We're well prepared, and we urge you to take the semester seriously and not rely on a pass no credit option, which is not being offered by most institutions of higher ed this fall. In terms of how you will be graded, each course is different, as our continuing students are familiar with. Each instructor sets up their own grading scheme, and so you would need to consult the syllabus early and often about how grades will be computed. As you're shopping for courses and thinking about doing add drop or whatever this over the next couple weeks, you'll want to check the schedule of classes to see how the class is meeting. If a class you need seems to only be meeting synchronously, please reach out to the instructor and ask what accommodations he or she can make for you. We have asked all of our synchronous instructors to make accommodations for international students. Please visit department websites for more information about courses. We are asking them to post as much information as possible about those courses, because unlike when we're all on campus, you can't just pop in and visit a course the first day it meets, and then basically all the materials for courses will be in a Canvas or Sakai site in New Brunswick. There's some limited use of Blackboard, and Camden and Newark have some other learning management systems. Some of these Canvas and Sakai sites will be open early and publicly, so you can peek in and look at the course in a little bit more depth, but also please check the web pages.
Great, thank you, Dean Lawrence. And to Dean Song, can you provide briefly some additional information about undergrad students who have concerns about their lab courses and final research projects?
So one of the most important coursework I want to see, for at least from engineering perspective, I would use this as an example, which is their capstone design. Many of our senior students are doing it for the year. So if you look at the project as such, it really has all these aspects. From engineering perspective, it includes understanding engineering concepts, generating hypotheses and design experiments, design products and procedures, and visualize and look at the data, analyzing and interpret data, and then connecting the data perhaps to a larger concepts and look at conclusions and understanding limitations. And I want to see that all of that, we are ready to offer them virtually. There were work that have been developed all over the world, providing virtual access to the concept labs or simulations. So the coupling of these, the virtual access with the computers at home, which we call, let's say, local computer. And in some areas, we are providing students with take-home kit. So this would help us to really offer the lab courses remotely. It's not just we're saying that you're going to pretty much just watch videos and then understand the concept. We're actually offering the labs that follows the same concepts, and students are doing the projects, really having to achieve all these goals, practical skills and problem solving abilities. And on top of that, as I mentioned, the virtual interactions, really having things like group work, teamwork, and broader communication skills. I want to mention this. Our students doing Zoom presentations, I watch them and they're doing a much better job than at least. They're very comfortable in front of the cam and presenting and switching between them. These are the trainings for the modern workplace that they will need. If you think the modern workplace perhaps will be forever transformed as well. So these type of skill sets, not only just because we don't have options, perhaps it is a much needed skill set that we need to train our students about. And same goes with the transferable skills and even the tech report writing. All of those, if you think, they don't necessarily require an in-person component. So I'm sort of reiterating what I mentioned before, and also Dean Lawrence mentioned, right? So the outcome is what we're focusing on, and the models that we look at right now as the remote model, and we want to take advantage of it to help students to do this. So really, if there is for international students also, we worked on some of the courses specifically even before this, even before the fully remote, as I mentioned, and we want to make sure these courses offer equal access to all students. So the technology requirements and everything else should be very basic, not some advanced technology or software. When the specific software are needed, we have this imaging mechanism, at least from our lab, that students can download the software or can log on to our server to access the software from the computer labs on campus. So hopefully all of this would help our students to achieve the learning goals before all of this.
Thank you so much, Dean Sung. So I know that we're running a little bit late, so I hope that attendees will have some additional time to spend with us. We'll probably go about the 10 to 15 after. There's some important information coming up from the School of, the Rutgers Business School and the School of Graduate Studies. So I would encourage everyone to stay on with this town hall. So thank you, Dean Song and Dean Lawrence. Now I'm going to invite Dean Chance to share some more information about academic services and resources that will be available to the Rutgers Business School. And after Dean Chance, we'll go directly to Dean Eileen Cowler, who will then speak about some graduate student issues. Dean Chance?
Thank you, Rick. I would like to focus just on two things. One is our Office of Career Management, plus the University Career Services. Students should be thinking ahead. They should be thinking about the future, and both OCM and University Career Services are open. They offer virtual career events. They offer virtual interviews, resume critiques, and many things like that. At the moment, there's actually in China, if you're in China and looking for a job, Rutgers is member of the American Universities China Association, and students can sign up for their virtual placement services that are going on as we speak. The other facet that Dean Song in the past always also emphasized is that students, in addition to classwork, should pay attention to soft skills, networking, being able to function within a company organization. And in order to do that, you need some practice. Where do you get practice? By participating in student groups, by taking leadership in those student groups, organizing events, contact people, invite speakers, and stuff like that. Fundraising, and many other things that you can get from being part of a student group and being an active member, either by participating in the events that they already scheduled, or by becoming a member and bringing that organization along into the future. So these two things, I think, are very critical, both for undergraduate and graduate students. That's something that points them toward the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Chance. So we're going to spend the next few minutes with Dean Eileen Cowler, who will be with us for the duration of the town hall till 11. So Dean Cowler, there's a series of questions that we want you to address. So I'm just going to read out the set of questions. So the fall 2020 semester, graduate education will return to a combination of in-person and remote education. Can you elaborate on what this hybrid model will look like for our grad students? Also, when will the final decisions about requests for deferral be communicated? In case of deferral to a subsequent semester, what is the policy for funding for international graduate students? And will that be carried over fully? And finally, we understand that a university policy regarding funding for PhD students has been announced. Can you please provide any directions about how students can find out if they are eligible for tuition remission or payment from the university?
Okay, let me do my best with these first. In terms of the instruction, I think I don't have much to add to what Dean Lawrence already said, because the basic rules for course instruction for graduate courses are the same. So the first stop is the schedule of classes to see what has been scheduled for the courses you're registered for. The second stop would be to your program directly. Now, I'm going to be meeting in a few days with the graduate program directors, and part of my job and why this is very useful, this meeting here today, is I'm going to make sure they get that information out to all the students, particularly incoming students for the fall, so everybody knows whether there is what the format of their course is going to be, whether it's going to be asynchronous remote or synchronous remote, and so on. My understanding is there will be very few in-person courses that will be offered. In addition to that, those of you who are coming in wanting to start with your research immediately, there will be a reminder to the grad program directors. And believe me, faculty don't need this. They are already enthusiastic about meeting with new students, whether masters or doctoral, who will be engaged in research. All with the remote environment we're all living in, there have already been in place processes for remote lab group meetings or research group meetings, reading clubs, and so on. So this is your program, is your first stop, and I'll be reminding the program directors to remind their faculty and your new advisors to get out to you with all the updates you need. Now, in terms of funding, the Rutgers funding models work according to how the budget is organized. And that means the main decisions are in the departments in the school. So you need to reach out to your program to be able to find out about, to address the questions about decisions for deferral and also a redistribution of your support package to allow you to get tuition remission. So in other words, the university is allowed to provide tuition if you are a new, if you're an international student, a new international student residing abroad. You can't start your formal support if you don't have the appropriate visa at this time, but you are eligible for tuition remission. This requires somewhat of a reorganization of your support package, and we direct you to the programs to discuss how that's going to be done. The School of Graduate Studies is not mandating any particular model. This has to be done within the budget constraints of all the programs and all the departments. I also want to emphasize I've got my email address on the chat. If you have individual questions, if you have difficulty reaching your program or getting the answers you're looking for, or general questions about services from the School of Graduate Studies, please reach out to me. We have a big staff. If I'm not the person for a particular thing, I will get your question to them. There'll be a great orientation that you all should be receiving information about if you haven't already, that will also be able to address many important questions. There'll be a lot of workshops, there'll be a lot of other professional development events, and you're all will be invited to participate. So I'm going to work to make sure the lines of communication are open. Any other questions, Rick,
No, I think that's very useful. And I think that there were some specific questions in the chat, but our colleagues have done their best to answer those questions.
Okay.
So I think we've responded to those. So let's turn now back to our colleagues from the International Student Services Office. And I'm gonna ask Maya to speak a bit more about the needs of new I-20s or DS 2019 students, and also about who qualifies to receive a support letter from the ISSS office. And then as well, can you say a few words about the impact of taking online courses and being out of the country on OPT and CPT? And specifically, can a student take an online course in their final semester and still do CPT? And also just some comments about OPT, CPT eligibility in general.
Okay, Rick, thanks. That was a lot of alsos, so I'm going to run together a lot of these topics, but that's okay. All right, so first of all, new students with to talk about who needs new I-20s or DS 2019s. So new students with initial status CVIS records will need new I-20s or DS 2019s if they defer their arrival until spring 2021. Continuing students who are outside the US do not need new I-20s or new DS 2019s for re-entry. However, remember that travel signatures are only valid for 12 months. So if you are out of the US in active status and your travel signature is no longer valid, then you will need to request a new travel signature before attempting to re-enter the US. The travel signature will be given on a digitally signed I-20, which is currently allowed by SEVP. And J1 students will require an original DS 2019. Now, to talk about support letters. So Rutgers Global ISSS is happy to provide support letters for students who have an on-campus requirement for the fall or who need to renew their F1 or J1 visas while abroad. Please keep in mind that these support letters do not guarantee that students will be issued a visa or will be permitted re-entry into the US, but rather they are meant to provide additional documentation that students intend to enroll in a course of study, which is a combination of hybrid and in-person requirements. Any graduate students wanting additional supporting documentation may contact your academic program for an optional academic letter of support. So that takes care of the letters of support. And also, if you're a continuing student and you have not yet responded to our fall 2020 survey, please be sure to respond to the survey because it's your response that will initiate the ability for us to provide a letter of support. So now I can't remember what order Rick had asked his questions in, but I think he wanted to talk about taking online classes and impact on OPT and CPT. So current guidance allows continuing students to enroll in 100% online classes, regardless of location, either inside or outside the US. Also, for continuing students, you are currently allowed to engage in CPT while abroad, as long as you continue to meet all the eligibility criteria for CPT and your employer either has an office outside the US and can still assess your engagement and attainment of your learning objectives. So as long as all CPT eligibility requirements are met, a student could hypothetically be outside the US in their final semester, taking an online course and still do CPT. In regard to OPT, the current regulations require students to be physically in the US at the time you submit your OPT application. So keep this in mind if you're considering being outside the US during your final semester. We hear the Department of Homeland Security is evaluating this issue though, and may issue additional guidance in the future. And if more information about this becomes available, we will be sure to update this on our FAQ documents. Regarding the one-year academic year eligibility for CPT and OPT though, if you've been maintaining your F1 record from abroad, then the semester abroad can count toward the one-year eligibility requirement for off-campus employment. However, for new students with CVIS records and initial status, the one-year eligibility will begin in your first semester at Rutgers in the US and an active status. I think there's also a question about reduced course loads. Students have been asking about reduced course loads. So just a reminder, for students with active CVIS records, reduced course loads are still allowable as always if you qualify for a reason such as the final semester of your program, or your coursework is completed and you are engaging in research, or for a medical reason. Otherwise, active students are expected to register for a full course load as always, whether inside or outside the US, as part of maintaining your legal F1 or J1 status. The process for requesting a reduced course load remains the same. Reduced course loads may be requested through an e-form on the R Global portal and will need approval from both the academic advisor and the ISSS. Did I miss anything, Rick?
No, I think that's great. Thank you so much. And maybe I'm going to ask this question for Maya, but open it up to the other panelists as well. Are there any emergency funds that are available to international students?
I'll address that first and then open up to anybody else. I will say that if you are a student that's experiencing unexpected financial hardship, especially because of the COVID pandemic situation, please contact us at the ISSS so that we can have a conversation and better understand what your current and immediate needs are. Our advisors are happy to help make you aware of external funding opportunities. Please reach out to help if you need help, and we will try to assist you in the best way we can. Also, feel free to contact your academic unit and Dean of Students office because they may be able to suggest specific resources.
Thank you. Are there others that are any school-specific emergency funding that are available for any students that you know of? And if not, we can certainly find this information.
The School of Graduate Studies did have an emergency fund program last year, and as far as I know, the budget for these funds has been exhausted. Whether there'll be a new budget for next year, I don't know, but we have been referring requests to the Rutgers Office of the Dean of Students, who will take requests from graduate students as well as from undergraduate students, and they encourage requests directly there. So that I will try on the chat to post the web link there.
Great, thank you so much, Dean Cowler. Thank you. So we have a final set of questions for my colleague, Carissa. Can you say, Carissa, a few words about how can students work in on-campus jobs remotely? And what kind of on-campus job opportunities are available to international students at this time? We also have another question from a student about overseas travel after the semester has begun. Can you comment on whether or not there's any risk to international travel? And then finally, another question about travel. Can students come to the United States if they're taking all online courses this fall?
Sure. So we'll talk about on-campus employment first. As Maya mentioned earlier, international students cannot actually be put on payroll unless they've reported to Rutgers and have an active CVIS record and have applied for Social Security. So newly admitted and funded international PhD students who are outside the US are not eligible, unfortunately, to receive the salary or stipend or health insurance because they don't have that active status. However, some continuing students, I think we had someone in the chat that was asking about this, who maybe transfer, someone that has an active CVIS status, they are eligible to work remotely and they can follow the steps through the on-campus employment procedure on our website and be placed on payroll that way. And if they have not applied for Social Security, they can do so through that process. So the other thing in terms of finding on-campus jobs, we do know of students who are able to find some remote work, maybe as a grader or doing research. And they're definitely able to pursue that if they work with the department. But it is a challenge right now because the campus is not completely open. So we understand it could be difficult for students to find that remote work, but we also have heard that some students are able to make that work. In terms of traveling overseas, after the semester has begun, there are some risks, and we definitely recommend that students continue to use caution when traveling and they are looking to re-enter the US because immigration guidelines are constantly changing. Also, the COVID conditions are changing on a daily basis, and that can unfortunately impact students' ability to travel and also return to the US. So as we've seen these travel bans come into place, and the conditions are extremely dynamic at this point, we definitely recommend that students reach out to our office to get some further guidance if they are thinking about traveling. And there's always some element of risk to consider when we're, especially in this environment. Under normal conditions, there's an element of risk, but especially now when things literally can be changing day by day. So we definitely encourage students to reach out to our office for more guidance. Regarding online classes, if students can take online classes this fall and travel. So as Maya mentioned earlier, if 100% of the coursework is online, then our advice is for you to stay in your home country at this time and plan to come to the Rutgers campus later. You can still begin and resume your studies from overseas. But if your program does require some in-person present component on campus, you should contact your department and your program to discuss this requirement. And you can confirm that once you've confirmed that there is a need for you to arrive on campus, you should complete the survey that Maya has mentioned. And after the survey, you can request that letter of support from our office and the academic support letter that's optional if you're a graduate student for the added support. However, of course, these letters are for extra support, but they're not guaranteed that you would be permitted to the US. You need to make sure you have the required travel signature, the visa, and so forth to enter before you try to enter the US properly for continuing students. Does that address everything?
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Carissa
Sure.
and Maya. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And I know we're a few minutes late, but I'm going to invite Dean Lawrence to offer some brief concluding remarks for our session today.
Thank you, Rick. This, I think, has been a great session. Thank you to everyone who's participated, and thank you so much for all the international students that are attending today. You are an incredibly important and valued member of the Rutgers community, and we thank you for being here today. We look forward to when you can rejoin us in person, but we are also committed to making the most of this remote experience. And as Dean Sung suggested, there are some real advantages that are being provided by this as we respond to this crisis. So I really want to thank you all, wish you all safety and good health, and we very much appreciate you being a Scarlet Knight with us, a member of the Rutgers community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dean Lawrence. And I also want to just extend our gratitude to all of our speakers today for taking the time to answer our students' questions. And for the, I think we'll review the questions in the chat. If there's any unanswered questions that are still outstanding, we'll be sure to follow up with you. We will also have this recording available on the Rutgers Global YouTube channel, and we'll share information to all the registrants who attended today. And please keep a lookout for further events from Rutgers Global by visiting our website at global.rutgers.edu. And in the meantime, we wish you continued success in your studies, and we hope that you're all doing well. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.